afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Spiritual Fitness with your host, Vaisheshika Prabhu, a veteran Bhakti yogi, former monk, and author, and myself, JM. Spiritual Fitness is dedicated to exploring the timeless texts and practices of Bhakti Yoga that leads to spiritual perfection. Good afternoon, Vaishka Prabhu. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, JM. Good to see you. And good to see all of you too who have joined us today. Great to see you back. We have some authentic practices today to enter into so as to make good use of your time, since you're very generously giving your time and attention to this program. And I'm following a path that was passed down to me through a traditional line of teachers that teach what's called devotional service or bhakti yoga. And in this process, there are several practices which help one to reconnect with one's original state of consciousness. By nature, we are full of happiness. The nature of the self is Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat means eternality. There's no sense that my life may end at some time. There's no fear, therefore. Chit means that I'm pure consciousness. And Ananda means by nature joyful, happy for no reason. And the experience of that is our birthright. And actually, it is the purpose of yoga. So in the practice of devotional service or bhakti, there are several ways in which one comes to this experience of one's own self, and then also the origin of oneself. So one of the practices is by hearing. It's called shravanam. And when one hears from authoritative sources about Sankhya, which means to hear about the difference between the material elements, which can be counted, cataloged, and oneself, one starts to develop a perspective of seeing the difference between oneself and matter. So I'm going to read to you a short passage from a book called the Yoga Sutras, in which the author, Dr. Bryant, has given an essential teaching of Sankhya, which means a way of observing the world in which you can do so dispassionately. You can observe the world for what it is and notice that you're the observer and that you don't have to be caught in the whirlpool of the world. But I would like to ask something in return, and that is that if you have a pen, paper, or something to write on, a screen somewhere near you, if you could jot down at least one point that you hear when I read this that resonates for any reason at all. It sounds poetical, it sounds helpful, interesting, doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be anything particular for any particular reason. It just catches your attention. If you would jot it down and then bring it back to the group just after I read this. Does that sound okay? If you don't have a pencil, then we can have one couriered to you. You just have to put your address in the chat box and we'll have it flown in. Okay. Yes? JM, you have a pencil?
Yes, I do have my laptop ready with keyboard.
You got your laptop. Okay, that'll work. All right, so I'm going to read from this book. And this is one of the processes of bhakti yoga. It's called shravanam. It's to hear something that helps us to gain perspective. So let's start with that. And then based on the hearing, we're going to try a meditation, which will help us enter more deeply within this material. So I'm reading from this book called the Yoga Sutras by Dr. Edwin Bryant. And This is on the chapter called Meditative Absorption. And it's based on the second sutra. A sutra means a statement that essentializes a particular topic. And the topic of this chapter, which is quite a long chapter, the sutra goes like this in Sanskrit: Yogas Chitra Vritti Nirodha. So yoga means yoga, which comes from the root word yuj, which means to connect. In this case, we're connecting with ourself. And then vritti means fluctuation. Nirodha means restraint or control. So one of the objectives of meditation, he's saying, the author from a couple thousand years ago, Patanjali, that yoga, meditation, is meant to restrain the fluctuations of the mind. Does that sound good? Let's hear what just a small piece of Dr. Bryant's commentary. According to some commentators, just as light bounces off an object back to its source, the consciousness of the self is reflected off this animated intellect and back to the self. From this perspective, the intellect also functions as a mirror, the self becoming conscious of its reflection in the animated intellect, just as one becomes conscious of one's appearance in a mirror. However, since the intellect is constantly being transformed into the images presented to it by the mind and senses, this reflection presented back to the self is constantly obscured and distorted by vrittis. And vrittis means the impressions or changes that take place in the mind due to the impulses coming from the outside world. I'll read that sentence again. However, since the intellect is constantly being transformed into the images presented to it by the mind and senses, this reflection presented back to the self is constantly obscured and distorted by vrittis, just as one's reflection in a mirror is distorted if the mirror is dirty or warped. When this distorted reflection is considered to be inherent within the actual self, rather than the product of the intellect or the mind, which is like a screen, an entity outside of and separate from it, the self becomes misidentified with the world of change. Through the changing states of the mind, the vrittis, noted in this sutra, just as one may look at one's reflection in a dirty mirror and mistakenly think that it is oneself who is dirty. Consider a young child looking at herself in one of those crazy mirrors that make one appear grotesquely fat or thin. Or in the pre-modern analogy used by Shankara, a face reflected in a long sword makes the face appear elongated. If the child does not realize that her deformed appearance in the mirror is merely a distorted reflection and not her actual self, she may experience fear or panic. The self, in short, is neither the physical body in which it is encased, nor the mind that exhibits psychic functions. It is pure autonomous consciousness. So I'll just take a second to let that sink in, and let's just see if you noted down anything. And you can reflect back, just as a mirror reflects back anything that's put upon it. Yes.
I really like the analogy of the mirror. The intellect being constantly transformed by the images sent to it by the mind, just like a mirror image being distorted if it's dirty or warped, right?
Yes. Yes.
A lot of times we believe what comes in, right? Believe what the mind tells us, about ourselves, right?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly the point. Yes, very nice. Thank you very much. Vikas, go ahead.
Yeah, and I would continue with what he said. Uh, I when I watch something bad in the night, like before maybe an hour before sleeping, then I do get a dream of that. So I think mind records it. So I think we should record something good
Well, that's
rather than
exactly to the point, Vikas. Thank you very much. Also, these are great reflections, and it's mentioned earlier in the book that there's a way in which our mind transforms according to the impressions that come into it, and the mind actually is like molten copper, and it takes on shapes and forms according to the ways in which it's subjected to imagery that comes into it. Or, a more modern example is that it's like photography. When you take a photo, there's an impression left on a film, or nowadays it's digital. The image is a representation of what it was focused upon. So similarly, when we focus our attention in various ways throughout the days, then our mind starts to take shape in those ways. And of course, the Yoga Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita explain that we're on a continuum. So it describes how we're taking in impressions, not just presently or from earlier in life, but from previous lifetimes as well. Let's see if there's any more reflections.
I have a question.
Sure.
Or a comment. So I'm trying to think if it's possibly circular, because I, notice that the eyes see what the mind has already decided. And so we see what we believe. If I think there are more yellow cars than any other car on the road, I'm going to see yellow cars everywhere all of a sudden. So it's just the way you were talking about it almost seems like it's the other way around. So if you can elaborate maybe.
Well, it's very astute of you to point out that it's circular. And it is. And there's what's described as a wheel of karma, action and reaction. And this actually comes from our interfacing with the world through the mind. And the mind takes on impressions. And then when we become aware of those impressions, we then form various types of opinions. We have tastes according to the way our mind is shaped. And that will be one of the subjects in a few minutes that I bring up about the three modalities of the world. And those modalities are described in the Bhagavad Gita and elsewhere as Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Sattva is the highest modality, and it is luminous. It reveals things in their actual state. Rajas and Tamas distort reality. And when our mind takes on a particular mode of nature, because of our cultivation and the way that we're associating, and especially the things that we're listening to, then we filter the images of the world in such a way that fits our particular mode of nature in our mind. And therefore, as it has been said by even Greek Western philosophers like Epictetus, who said, we don't see the world the way it is, we see the world the way we are. And then after that interpretation, there's a loop, even within our own mental and physical system. For instance, let's just say I hear a noise outside of my house, and I hear it sounds like my car's getting hit. So then my physical body starts to react as well to the mind's interpretation of what just happened. And so I'll perspire, and my heart will start to beat faster. And then the mind sees the body changing and says, it must be true. Because look, even the body, and I get into this infinite feedback loop. Of course, then if I go and look out the mirror, out the window, and I see it wasn't my car, it was the neighbor's car, then my perspective changes. And I'll think, oh, nothing to worry about because it was my neighbor and not my car. And it's a matter of identification. So nice reflection. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Let's take one more before we try it out on ourselves, as we are little walking laboratories, and we can practice some of these things through meditation and chanting. Did anybody else write something down you want to share?
One thing, sorry to again asking this and stealing chance from other. So one thing you said that yoga is to control the mind. So I believe if you try to control mind, it bounces back hard. So what does control mind mean here?
The way that the mind is controlled is by raising it to a higher mode of nature. And that means that the mind, through practice, can be conditioned to a higher mode. So when our mind is in rajas and tamas, the lower modalities of nature, then it is distorted and disturbed. When we're cultivating sattva, which we'll talk about today, then the mind becomes luminous, and we're able to see things as they are, and the mind becomes much easier to control. Through determined practice, one can transform the mind to a higher mode of nature, and even beyond the modes of nature, which is the ultimate subject of yoga, which is to go beyond the modes altogether. Let's see, there's one more that just came in. I love that you use the word perspective. I think that is such an important word to help us remain in the state of mindfulness. Thank you. You're welcome. Actually, the word perceive has a Latin root, and it means sieve means, the root of the word means to grab something, to hold on to it. And therefore, the way that we're conditioned in our minds, we hold on to certain things. We notice certain things because we're predisposed to see them in a certain way. That's our perspective. So when yes.
Oh, sorry for interrupting.
Not at all.
Do you mind if I share a quick story with you just on the perspective piece?
Not at all. Please go ahead.
My brother shared a story with me, pretty simple story, but it has stuck with me for the past few months. He was at a bus stop in Ireland. It was lashing rain. He was late for work, getting soaked, to no bus shelter. And his first instinct was to get annoyed and angry and frustrated, right? But then he thought to himself, okay, I can control my perspective. So he used the opportunity. He said, the bus isn't coming. I'm late for work. It's lashing rain. I'm wet anyway. I'm going to run to work. So he used, he completely flipped it around as an opportunity for something positive, and he ran to work, and he ended up laughing to himself while he was running to work that people must have thought he was crazy. But he got a great workout. He got to work. He would have been soaking wet anyway if he waited on the bus, right? And he got to work very positive, had a shower, and felt great for the rest of the day. So I think he used the word perspective too, and I was just like, wow,
This is such a good point. It's very practical. I noticed since we've been in quarantine, and I've been avidly gardening recently. When it starts to rain, I get really joyful because of free water coming to all my plants. Whereas if I was doing something else, I might see it as an obstruction. So really, we can adjust our minds and our points of view. And we can do it rather quickly. And then there's a more systemic way and a way that becomes part of us through constant practice, through the yogic process. Let's try a little meditation in which we close our eyes just for a moment or two and take some time to breathe. And if you sit up just not rigidly straight, but just a little bit straighter than you were a second ago, you'll notice that your mind comes to attention. And then take the luxury of noticing your breath. And as you breathe, relax, but don't fall asleep. Keep your awareness on your breath. And one way to do that is to have gratitude for your breath and realize that it is the greatest gift that you have in this moment. and it's coming from a higher source. We're swimming in an ocean of air. And breathe and relax. And just be aware that you're alive. You're not a human doing, you're a human being. And what you are is non-temporal, non-chemical, non-neural. And you have the power of placing your attention wherever you wish. And where your attention goes, your energy will flow. And because of that, you can design your life and you can determine the direction you're going. Now, as you're inwardly aware, please notice something that's in your mental system that causes you some anxiety. There may be something in your life situation right now that keeps circling around, and it causes you some kind of tension. Maybe economic or some relationship. Just one is enough for now. And if you can identify what it is, then take a look at it. Now please notice that you're the one looking at it and see it as a separate object. It's not you. It's separate. It is part of your life situation. And actually, you're the one witnessing your life situation. It doesn't define you. You're beyond your life situation. And this is called sakshi, or witnessing. Take the luxury of watching, but not engaging. And notice that whatever anxiety it's making you feel is simply an energy. And notice that you're separate from that energy. You're watching it, but it's not you. And bring your attention back to your breath. And internally let go of whatever in your life situation was causing you stress. And then open your eyes, come back to the room. I looked up the word situation as I like this phrase, your life situation, as distinct from yourself. And it comes from Latin. Situation comes from situs, a place or position. And then it has deeper roots that go all the way back to Sanskrit, shakti, which means a place where you abide or where you dwell. And abide means to remain, to wait for, to delay, to remain behind. So our minds are recording devices. They pick up things from our environment through our senses, and they record them there. We can notice that the life situation is going on in the mind, like a movie. And we can learn to witness it and step back from it. So let's just see if you had any reflections from the experience of taking a few seconds. How do I say your name? Emfai? It's Emfayhy.
Oh, that's just the username. My name is Evan.
Evan. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Evan. Evan writes, thank you so much for that. It was beautiful. Oh, good. Thank you. Any other feelings, experiences that you had from the exercise of just taking a moment to notice your breath and notice that you're separate from your life situation?
So it was totally different for me. I felt like I'm watching it, a 3D model of it, whatever it was. And then I felt relieved at the end.
Oh, that's good. That's nice. Yes, relief. There's a way in which we can be relieved from a dream if we're being chased by a tiger, and then we wake up and notice that actually I'm not being chased by a tiger. One of the dreams I often have, I haven't had it lately because I haven't been traveling so much or at all, but which I have this dream where I'm running for the gate, but I lost my ticket. And then I wake up and go, you're not running for the gate. And I feel relief. And so there's this sense that we may get from our life situation, which we can gain a different perspective from. Any other thoughts, experiences you had from the meditation?
Talking about perspective, right? That image or that thing that was causing me anxiety, by the fact that just looking at it as a separate thing from myself relieved me from that anxiety. It was really good to think about it and change the perspective and say, no, I'm thankful for this, and I can see this in a different perspective.
Oh, thank you, Mary. That was a very helpful reflection. It brings me back to the purpose of the exercise itself, which is what I announced at the beginning we'd be doing, hearing the philosophy called Sankhya. Literally in Sanskrit, it means to count or to catalog and see what's going on around you. And not just assume that you are your life situation, but to count what are the various elements that are around you and to see, are you part of them? Or are you something separate? And when you're able to do that, then you have a sense of relief, and also you're able to work dispassionately but methodically in the world, much more effectively than as if you're overwhelmed by the situations of your life. Thank you very much. Let's have one more reflection, and then I'll talk about the 3 modalities and how we can cultivate them. What did you think of that meditation? That's all I'm asking. Just tell me one experience you had or an observation from it. What happened?
It was powerful.
Who was that?
This is Evan here again.
Oh, Evan, thank you.
I thought it was powerful. I'm not an expert by any means with meditation. I've done a little bit here and there, but I've never had such an effect like that, to be able to have that perspective, right? To look at a difficult situation and say that's not me. That doesn't define me. It's part of my life, but it's I can look at it separately from me, right?
Yes. And the point of power, I like the word you use, powerful. The point of power is in the present moment. And we have power, but we let it diffuse out into our life situation, and we don't realize that we're creating by where we're putting our attention. And when we become more aware that we can place our attention wherever we wish, and we can have a different perspective, then that is the point of power. Yes, Tamar?
Yeah. Thank you. So I was thinking when you started guiding us through it, I picked something kind of smaller and I was able to do it, right? I was like, okay, yeah, I can see how this is not me and I'm observing. But when we opened our eyes and I stepped back and I'm thinking, as a mother who is absolutely mortified for the well-being of my children these days, I don't know that I'm able to do that. So I wonder if there is a scale where if it's smaller, I can, but when it gets really big, I am having a hard time practicing that. And it came up in a counseling session I had earlier this week because I'm living in this state of anxiety. And my counselor was trying to do the same thing where it goes, right now, your children are safe, and I have 4 black sons. And so I'm really trying, but I'm having a hard time when it feels like the scale is really big.
Yeah, sure. Well, if you're going to learn to throw the javelin, then, your first throw will be a few feet. And after you learn how to throw the javelin and you build up, then maybe you can throw it a longer distance. With any discipline, obviously, it starts in a small, simple way and then develops. And there are very deep emotions and connections that we have to this world. And it's not that we become cold or uncaring about our relatives or those who are very dear to us and so forth, but we learn how to process it naturally because we are in a process in life. Everything's changing around us. And when we learn to see that and accept that the world's constantly changing, and that's reality, but we're not changing, we're witnessing the changes, then we can start to feel a foundational place through which we can process the change. We can keep coming back to that steady place. So this takes practice, and it's not simply an intellectual exercise. There is a development of a higher modality. We take on a quality through our practice. Actually, JM, do you have the video?
Yes.
About Sattva?
Yes.
I'm going to transition because of Tamra's excellent question, and I'll show you a little video shamelessly that I made when I was in India in in October. And it's about Sattva, and it's the topic that I'm going to go into next. They'll answer your question a little bit more clearly. Okay, JM, go right ahead.
Sure. I'm sharing my screen. Let me know if you can see the screen.
Yes.
And let me know if you can hear the sound.
Okay. Yoga is the science of balancing body, mind, and spirit. First, a little bit about the body. The Bhagavad Gita explains that we're subjected to 3 modalities: goodness, passion, ignorance, or in Sanskrit called Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. When we keep our bodies in the mode of goodness or Sattva, there's clarity, there's health, there's illumination. Here are the ways suggested in the ancient Vedic text how to stay in Sattva in one's body. The first is regulation. Our senses thrive on being regulated. As Agmandino used to say, never greet the dawn without a map. Know what you're doing and do it at the right time. When you do this, according to yoga wisdom, your senses will thrive. If you have an erratic schedule and you're doing different things every single day, your senses tend to become confused and they're covered by the lower modes of nature called Rajas and Tamas, or passion and ignorance. The second secret to keeping the body in goodness or Sattva is our diet. We are what we eat, not just in body, but also mind and spirit. There are foods that are fresh, that are non-violent, that are tasty, and that nourish the body and the mind and the spirit. And if we eat those kinds of foods, our body will respond. It's a simple algebraic expression. If you put garbage in, garbage will come out. And whatever we eat pervades our body what to speak of our mind. The third principle of the body is sleep. You have to have enough sleep, but not too much. The Bhagavad Gita says, don't sleep too much and don't sleep too little. Here's the secret. I learned this many years ago from my teacher. Go to bed early, wake up early. It sounds simple, but try applying it in today's world where there's electric lights and all kinds of stimulation that keep us up late. Resist that. Live a lifestyle in which you go to bed earlier and wake up before the sun, and you'll discover a whole new world. Not only that, your body will thrive. And then there's the cleanliness principle. Be clean. There's two ways recommended. One is keep your environment clean. Don't over-collect. Don't keep clutter in your environment. Get rid of things you don't need. You'll find that as soon as you get rid of things that you don't need, you'll feel peace. It's amazing, and it's so simple. The second is keep your body clean. Yogis sometimes take bath 3 times a day. Traditionally, yogis take bath 3 times a day. Clean water clears the mind. It makes the body vibrant. You can also try this if you want something exciting in your life. Take a cold shower early in the morning and see how you feel the rest of the day. You'll be stimulated, you'll be awake, and amazingly, even on cold days, you'll be warmer because all your pores will be closed up. These are basic yogic practices, and if you simply employ them, regulation, eating the right things, sleeping the right amount, and getting up before the sunrise, and staying clean, you'll find that your body's radiant, it's in the mode of sattva, and wisdom will come from every pore of your body. This relates to the cultivation of sattva in the body. There is also cultivation of sattva, the higher mode of nature, in the mind, and also in our spiritual practice. So in developing sattva through various practices, thank you, Jasmine, actionable, yes. The point is, cultivation means there are ways through determined effort you can develop new habits that are sattva, and they help you to develop the kinds of perspectives that we talked about today. When we're subjected to a very disorganized environment or uncleanliness or heavy intoxication and things like that, it's very difficult for the mind to be clear and for us to distinguish between our life, the fact that we're conscious beings, and our life situation. We tend to become connected to them more readily when we're in rajas and tamas. But in sattva, it is said, sattvam yad brahmadarshanam. We're able to actually see the difference between ourself and our life situation when we are in that state of sattva. So that's just a tiny little taste of cultivation of sattva, some parameters for a lifestyle of sattva that just deal with the body. And there are others that have to do with the mind and, this, as we say, the spirit. We gave a summary of those. We've given a summary of those in the 21-day fitness challenge that you can try out. It's on my website, and you can go through the website under next steps. And then there's a section you can sign up for, and you'll get a little chart, and you can try some of these things and see how they go. And you'll notice that they make a difference. In the metaphor of the mirror, which is something that is very commonly used to express our existential situation, and that is that we're in a body. We're not the body, but we're in a body. And we're not the body. The body is a machine. It's a yantra, and we're not mechanical. We're non-neural. We're non-chemical. And we are non-temporal, whereas the body is all of those things. It's neural, it's temporal. But if I identify with it, then I become limited by that perspective. But we can develop a higher perspective. And let me just give you a few of the symptoms of sattva as given in one of the beautiful writings called the Srimad Bhagavatam, which talks about yoga. So these are three catalogs of symptoms from sattva, rajas, and tamas. So the first describes sattva, the highest modality of nature, and just listen to some of the symptoms that arise from that mode. Mind and sense control, tolerance, discrimination, sticking to one's prescribed duty, truthfulness, mercy, careful study of the past and future, satisfaction in any condition, generosity, renunciation of sense gratification, faith in the spiritual master, being embarrassed at improper action, charity, simplicity, humbleness, and satisfaction within oneself are the qualities of the mode of goodness or sattva. Are you ready for rajas, the middle mode?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Material desire, great endeavor, audacity, dissatisfaction even in gain, false pride, praying for material advancement, considering oneself different and better than others, sense gratification, rash eagerness to fight, a fondness for hearing oneself praised, the tendency to ridicule others, advertising one's own prowess and justifying one's actions by one's strength are qualities of the mode of passion. Dare I even read the third one, the lowest modes of nature? Okay.
Yes.
I'm taking Josh's reaction as an encouragement to go ahead. All right. Here we go. The mode of tamas, the lowest modality, and these are the symptoms, some of the symptoms. Intolerant anger, stinginess, speaking without scriptural authority, violent hatred, living as a parasite, hypocrisy, fatigue, quarrel, lamentation, delusion, unhappiness, depression, sleeping too much, false expectations, fear and laziness constitute the major qualities of the mode of ignorance. Now, these ancient scriptures point out that we always have a mixture of these three. We're never completely in one state or the other, but they mix together in various combinations. Like if you take three primary colors and you start mixing them, then you can get combinations and permutations, and it'll turn into thousands of different colors. So in these three modalities mixed together, they make combinations and permutations in our consciousness, and that's one of the ways in which we're conditioned to perceive the world. So when the mind is in sattva, it's like a mirror that's just covered by a little dust, and all you need is a cloth to clean the mirror. When it's in rajas, the middle mode, it's more like it's covered with mud, and then you need a bucket of water and a sponge so you can really lean into it and get it off. And when we're in the mode of ignorance, it's like being inside a wooden crate. You need an axe to open it up so we can see the light of day. And sometimes if we go way low to the mode of ignorance, it's like being covered by stone. You need dynamite to open it up. So our own practice may be hard to begin, because what if I'm starting in a lower modality? How do I even motivate myself to do a practice that would elevate me to sattva? Well, the ancient yoga scriptures say that there is one powerful tool that's like dynamite and that you can try. And that is called mantra. So mantra is like the dynamite that blows away these external coverings and brings us very quickly to sattva and above these three modalities altogether, and helps us to be fully aware of our spiritual nature. So the mantra is a kind of sound vibration that is from a different realm. We say from the fourth dimension, beyond the dimensions of this world. And it's also described as an avatar. Avatara means one who descends from a higher level to a lower level to give something. So the mantra brings a gift. And that gift is to help us move away the dust, to cleanse the dust rather on the mirror, to cleanse the mud, to break out of the crate, or to blow up the stone that's around us. And by using the mantra, you'll notice that you're getting extra help in the process. Lifestyle change, as I described, there are various adjustments that you can make to your lifestyle, as seen in the major motion picture that we just produced and put before you about sattva. The mantra, even if you're starting from zero, if you start with mantra, you'll start to notice a great help, and then you'll get impetus for the lifestyle changes that can also then help you do more mantra. And then it becomes an upward spiral. So let's try a little mantra. So the first mantra is called the one-syllable mantra that focuses all energies of the universe in one place. And actually, this is a sound vibration that's already within your heart chakra. So when you say it with your tongue and vocal cords, you'll also notice a resonance in your heart area. And I'm going to get my Casio, because I want to make sure we're on a frequency that we can relate to. 1 second. This is a B. And I think we decided last time that C was a little too high. So let's try B. And I will say the mantra, and behind closed microphones, please vibrate the mantra and just feel the resonance. You don't have to do anything else. So take a couple of natural breaths. And if you like, sit up slightly straighter than you were a second ago. And I'll do Om 3 times. And if you like, please join in and notice the resonance. So this Om mantra is a seed mantra. And when you look at a tiny seed, it looks insignificant. But when you plant it and you water it, then you'll notice that something grows from it. So similarly, you'll notice great spiritual benefits will grow from reciting the mantra Om. And then in your mantra collection, I want to give you another mantra. This mantra is propitiating, calling for the two avatars, Nitai and Gauranga. They're luminous like the sun and moon. They appear simultaneously to illuminate the inner consciousness of every living being. And so when you say Nitai and Gauranga, this mantra will bring luminosity inwardly. Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga. And finally, we have the Maha Mantra. This mantra has been recited, sung by monks, yogis, transcendentalists for eons. It appears in the Upanishads, which are thousands, some people claim tens of thousands of years old. And in the Kalisantarana Upanishad, where this mantra appears, it says that the mantra was around even before it recorded it. And it says this mantra will illuminate your consciousness and remove all obstacles on the path. And the pronunciation of the words Hare, Krishna, and Rama, the three words within the mantra, have to do with our original divine source. So there's a feminine aspect, which is called Hara, the nurturing aspect. And that in the vocative form is Hare. When you say Hare, it's like calling out to that original nurturing female divine source. Krishna is the masculine. So Hare and Krishna go together like yin and yang. And Krishna means all attractive and the source of all beauty. And Rama means spiritual strength and happiness. The source of actual strength and happiness comes from the avatar Rama. So then we have, in combination, a little bit, it takes a little more dexterity to repeat this mantra, but once you get the rhythm of it, it's not so hard. It's 16 words, 32 syllables, very balanced. And it goes like this: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And now we'll try the Maha Mantra together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So these mantras can be done as japa, which means a personal meditation. So let's just say, you could bring the other screen back just for a minute, JM. If you're doing your daily practice at home, if you're doing your daily practice at home, you can sit somewhere and practice these mantras for yourself. Just listen to the sound vibration and repeat them. And nice to create a sacred space somewhere in your garden or in your home, and then just sit there for a while, sit a little straighter, and then repeat the mantras and hear them and try to absorb the sound vibration. And you'll notice that the avatar of the mantra begins to have its effect on your consciousness, your perspective. And from this, you'll naturally rise to Sattva guna. And one of the reasons that we try to cultivate Sattva guna in our life also is so that we can chant the mantra. So there is a reciprocal relationship, because if we are cultivating Sattva, then it makes it easier for us to chant. If we're too much in Rajas, which is, again, intense activity, desire, restlessness, it's hard to even sit for a few moments. Even for 30 seconds, the mind will say, "What are you doing? You got to get going. You got to go somewhere. There's so many things you have to do." You'll feel guilty, anxiety, everything from Rajas. And Tamas, you'll just say, forget it. I'm going to sleep. So these two things go together. There's a balance to the spiritual practice. And then the other way to do the mantra is very fun. It's if you have an instrument, you can do a little chanting or singing of the mantra. I'm not a musician, but let me just give you a small sample of what it sounds like to do what's called kirtan. Kirtan means singing the mantra, and normally we do this. Yes, you can do it with a guitar. In fact, we have a friend who's really expert at guitar, who does mantras, and also we have a world famous pianist who was on here last month, and we'll bring him back if you like. We'll make him come back on our show and do some for you. But here's just a small taste. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So now these kirtans, when you mix in melody and a little rhythm, and you may have noticed sometimes in the back of, in my backdrop here, I have this drum. This is a drum called a khol from India. It's been around for thousands of years, and it's a rhythm instrument. And when you get a little a melody and a little rhythm mixed together, especially if you have a group together, you can really feel carried away by the mantra. And this group singing of the mantra with a call and response is called Samkirtan. Very powerful. And this is a way of meditation that you won't even be able to tell you're meditating. It's not like you're going off to the Himalayas and living in a cave, but you can be anywhere. And as long as you're taking in this higher vibration, yes, it's music, and yes, it's rhythm, but it's mantra. And the mantra itself then has its medicinal effect and helps us to come to Sattva and beyond. And let's just see if there's any last comments, because I don't want to keep you here all day. Otherwise, you may not come back. And see if there's any reflections or any last questions. I see there's a lot on the board here. Thanks, Jasmine. So Jasmine noted that goodness, clarity, health, and illumination, how to keep the body in goodness, regulation, never greet the dawn without a map, healthy diet, sleep, yes, stay clean. And there's other, JM put some videos, there's more videos. And anybody want to, yeah, okay, Mary had to go. And thanks for the beautiful practice and session. Thank you, Tamara and Vikas. Okay, thank you. Anybody want to say anything before we go? Say hey.
I have a quick comment.
Yes.
Just 2 weeks ago was the first time I was on, and you did the Hare Krishna, Hare Rama without any music, and I thought it was powerful. Today with the music, amazing.
Nice, right? Okay, we'll do it more in the future. Get a little music in our life. First big experience I had was the movie Sound of Music with Julie Andrews when it came out in 1965 when I was just a kid. And the power of that music and lyric and so forth. But then when you put mantra, you've got the best of both worlds. Anybody else want to say hey?
Just want to share that I like the point when you mentioned that how mantra is a dynamite that brings us Sattva and above.
Yeah, the gradual process and cleaning everything, bring in the dynamite, break away the coverings. The mantra is very, very powerful. We need a special instrument, especially these days, because the environment is really surcharged with a lot of rajas and tamas. So, yeah, bring in the demolition crew. Thank you very much, everybody. It's so great to be with you, and I look forward to the next week to joining in, and have a fantastic week. Try out the 21-day fitness challenge. I'm doing it, and I really love it, and I think you'll like it too. And also try a little mantra this week. It's part of the 21-day fitness challenge, but you'll like it. Thank you very much, and remember that where attention goes, energy flows. See you next time.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you so much.